global stratification. Okay, first of all, we will be discussing that what is global stratification. Stratification is, you can say, the stratas or grouping made on the basis of an inequality made globally on basis of they can say the gender, race, ethnicity, or religion. Okay, so global stratification by birth is first point comes in ancestry. In ancestry, you are getting birth not by your choice, and you are like in the world, you are coming into the world in a specific kind of family. In which family, for example, a family is poor, you are coming in that family, so you will be belonging to that. Your status, socioeconomic status will be poor. If you will be getting birth into families who are higher economic, who are having higher economic statuses, then you will be belonging to that family. So ancestry matters, then how your own parents were, or your grandparents were, their grandparents like socioeconomic status were. So if they were having the poor socioeconomic status, they will not be transferring that to they cannot transfer the rich status to you. Obviously, when your grandparents are having poor socioeconomic status, they will be transferring same to you. And if they were having the rich socioeconomic status, they will be transferring similar to their parents, and then their parents, and then their parents. So this is how nations are running. After that, gender comes. So gender inequality is very much common globally. Race and ethnicity, because of color, because of color, if they are white, if they are black, their caste. On basis of caste, different classes are made, and on basis of those classes, global stratification is done. And then religion is the most important factor. On basis of religion, the people are using doing global stratification. These are Muslim countries, these are Hindus, these are different kinds of Christians or Indians. So these on basis of religion, global stratification also comes. Okay, and then global stratification overview. There are three kinds of global stratification in countries. First one is high income countries, then is middle income countries, then is lower income countries. Okay, high income countries contain 22% of world's people or population. Okay, then they receive 80% of global income. They have high standard of living rooted in technology. They produce enough goods for people to lead comfortable lives. So they include 66 nations: US, Canada, Mexico, Argentina, Europe, Israel, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Malaysia, Australia, etc. Okay, so high income countries are having the population of 22% world's people. They are having like different people are coming from different countries. They are having 22%, and they are receiving 80% of globally income. What does this mean that they are receiving 80% of global income? It means that their import export businesses are expanded in different countries, and they are getting money from different countries. So that is the most important contributor in the socioeconomic status of different countries. Okay, after that, middle income countries comes the 58% of world's people. In this middle income countries, different people from different cities and different countries, people are coming into middle income countries. Like for example, 58% people are coming in middle income countries, and what they are receiving, they're receiving only 18% of global income. Like globally, they are getting only 18%. So they have average lifestyles. It includes 72 nations. For example, Eastern Europe, Peru, Brazil, Namibia, Egypt, Indonesia, China. Okay, so after that comes low income countries. Low income countries contain 19% of world's population. Like in low income countries, 19% people are coming from all around the world, or all around the globe, and they are receiving 2% of global income. So their global income is again very much less, only 2%. So they are not getting enough amount, or the money is not coming into their country. So they are 2%, and they have low standard of living. When people are coming into their country from all over the world, different globe from the globe, so they have to pay them, those people. people. So what they are getting, they are not getting globally. While in high income countries, 22% people are coming, but they are getting money 80% from globally. Okay, so that is the major factor, that how different countries having accommodating the people from all over the globe, and how they are having the global income status. Okay, after that, global wealth. Okay, किस तरह से people are rich and be people are having poverty, we will be looking at it. What are the causes of global wealth and global poverty? How people are rich and how people are having poverty. Okay, so first one comes the first comes in it, that is the poverty and the children. Okay, so death comes early in poor societies where families lack adequate food, safe water, secure housing, and access to medical care. Organizations combating child poverty estimates that at least 100 million city children in poor countries beg, steal, sell, or work for drug gangs to provide income for their families. Such a life almost always means dropping out of the school and puts children at high risk of disease and violence. Many girls with little or no access to medical assistance become pregnant, a case of children who cannot support themselves, being forced to have still more children. Okay, so in this case, we can see that people who are those countries who are having they are having children, and they what they are doing, they are not sending their kids to school or to educate them, but they are using them for their to meet their basic necessities or their needs. But like they are not having enough resources, so what they will be doing, they will be using their
मैम
children as a. Yes.
मैम आप बहुत स्पीड से पढ़ा रही हैं, मुझे कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा है, थोड़ा स्पीड थोड़ी स्लो कर लें।
अच्छा, ठीक है.
थैंक यू मैम।
Poverty, what comes under the poverty and children? Okay, in poverty and children, the thing is those families or those countries which are having children, they do not have they do not have enough resources to educate their children or to give up proper brought up to their kids. So what they will be using, they are having lack of resources, so definitely they will be using their children to earn and to go outside to earn for them, or children will be going into the drugs, and they will be drug addicts, or they will be earning by stealing, or they will be becoming a street beggars, like these kind of things. So when they are not educating their children and not putting efforts on children, they are just using them to get the money. So what how a globally country can be globally, how a country can grow or can become wealthy. So that is the major important factor in it. After that, poverty and women comes. Okay, in rich societies, the work women do typically is unrecognized, undervalued, and underpaid. In poor societies, this is even more the cause. Like for example, if a woman is working in any society or in organizations, so what they are doing, that like they are not getting paid according to their efforts. For example, in here we have seen that in Pakistan there are few ladies who are working as a taxi drivers or as a Kareem or Uber drivers. So what they are getting, I have heard so many people and I've seen on social media trolling those ladies and saying that, oh, if a woman is driving, so it is not safe to sit with them or like that. Either she is also working hard, she's putting her effort, she can do better, but their efforts are undervalued. So that's why the women are having poverty more in globally. After that, slavery comes. Poor societies are vulnerable to many problems. For example, they are having hunger, illiteracy, warfare, and slavery. So when they are not having enough food, so after that, slavery comes. In slavery, when you have seen that different, you are at your home, you must be having maid or helper who is coming to you. Why they are coming to you? Because they are not having enough resources, they need to work. So slavery is most common, that they are working under other peoples to serve their families. After that, technology comes. So technology is also the important factor. About one quarter of people in low income countries farm the land using human muscles or beasts of burden. So what people are doing in technology, people are not using advanced technology. They are relying on their own body, their own hand, or their they are making their self as a burdenized. They are burdenizing their own self. So in technology, when they are doing this, so what will happen, that people will not be getting more, like you can say, like they cannot get the more productivity, they cannot work on a larger scale. So that is the example. For example, in villages, there is a common lassi, you must have been heard. That is a common like cold drink, and which is a drink in summers which we use. So in villages, what people are doing, people are having the clay pots and clay like beaters, so they used to make in that, and they are taking a lot of efforts in that, and they are stick to them. While in cities, people are using blender to make that. So those things, technology, in villages, if technology is there and they are getting one machine, they can produce the product on a larger scale, and they can sell and they can do business. So technology, lack of technology also matters. After that, population growth. See, in lower economic countries, the resources are already less, but there is a lot of population over there. People are giving birth to a lot of kids, 7 to 8 kids or like that, more kids also. So that is the also the important factor, that you do not have enough resources to compete yourself to provide your kids a healthy resources. So what you are doing, that you are you are only giving birth to kids, and what they are getting, you are not educating enough, you are not providing enough resources, your social economic status is less, so your country is not benefiting those kids also. So population growth is also the important factor. After that, cultural patterns. What does cultural pattern means? Cultural patterns comes that poor societies usually are traditional, okay, and they used to adhere on a long established old ways of, or long established ways of life. People resist innovations. When change is coming, people are resisting that change, and they are relying on the old patterns of their businesses. For example, in a few villages which are not much developed, or and they are underdeveloped, but in land farming, they are producing land or producing products by using land by machinery. But in a few villages where the machinery is not there, but they have asked that you can use the machinery, they have the resources, but they're not getting that, because they think the way they can make their land productive, that is by using their hands or putting efforts, and they are doing that. So they are putting a lot of efforts, but they're not getting the product as much on a larger scale, whereas technology and machinery is doing at on a larger scale. After that, gender inequality. Gender inequality is very much common, as there is gender discrimination. If boys, they are boys, so they are be more privileged, and they are giving opportunities. And if there is a girl, so she will be stigmatized that she is a girl, and she cannot put more efforts, so her values will be under her efforts will be undervalued. After that, global power relationships between nations of the world. So what they are doing, like a final cause of global poverty lies in the relationship between the nations of the world. Okay, wealth followed the poor societies to rich societies. Okay, how, if a society is poor, wealth is going from poor society to rich society. How it is going? For example, colonialism. What happens in it? That this term means that if a country is targeting the other country, or a process by which same nation enrich themselves through political and economic control of other nation. For example, when there is a need come, so US or Saudi Arabia or different like high income countries, they are offering their help or aid to other countries who are in need. So high income countries, what they are doing, they are giving their resources or aid or helping the other countries, and they what they are doing, how they are helping, they are using the colonialism process by which they are targeting or they are helping by the direct by the political and economic resources. They are helping the government and on a larger scale. After that, neo-colonialism comes. What does this mean? It means that people or other countries, they're not targeting the political or economic resources. They are targeting the multinational corporations, multinational companies. What they will be doing, they will be doing businesses in your countries. For example, Pepsi is a brand which belongs to other countries, but it is very much usable in Pakistan. People use that on a larger scale. So what they are doing, they are doing their business indirectly with the multinational corporation. So what amount on a larger scale they are getting, they will be receiving and they will be taking that into their own country. Is this clear to you all up till now? है कि देखो, पाकिस्तान को जरूरत होती है या हमें जरूरत होती है कि हमें वो दिया जाए, एड दी जाए, तो क्या होता है, ये हमारे पे कोई किसी भी कंट्री में कोई फ्लड आता है, या फॉर एग्जांपल इंडिया में कोविड बहुत ज्यादा है, तो यूएस ने क्या किया, डिफरेंट कंट्रीज ने क्या किया, उस कंट्री की हेल्प की, ठीक है। जब हेल्प की तो पॉलिटिकल और इकोनॉमिक लेवल पे हेल्प की ना, गवर्नमेंट को उन्होंने एड दी, गवर्नमेंट के साथ हेल्प की, तो उन्होंने उसके साथ अपना रिलेशनशिप बना लिया। अब क्या हुआ, इन नीड उन्होंने हेल्प कर दी और उन्होंने दी, एड है, लेकिन उनका हेल्प हो गया। तो जो पॉलिटिकल या इकोनॉमिक लेवल पे दूसरी कंट्रीज की हेल्प की जाती है उसको कहते हैं कॉलोनलिज्म, ठीक है। और इसमें इन टर्म ये आती दोनों टर्म्स ग्लोबल पावर रिलेशनशिप्स में है, और इन दोनों का मतलब ये है कि जब बिजनेस किया जाता है तो आपकी उस कंट्री के साथ फिर इस तरह से रिलेशनशिप अच्छा हो जाता है। मुश्किल में हेल्प की, रिलेशनशिप अच्छा हो गया, इन फ्यूचर जब वो बिजनेस करेंगे या तो जो भी आप उनकी कंट्री में प्रोडक्ट्स भेजोगे, तो डेफिनेटली जी, चाइना की हम क्यों प्यार करते हैं, चाइना से क्यों हम चाइना के साथ हैं, बिकॉज चाइना हमारी मुश्किल में मदद करता रहा है, इसलिए हम चाइना के प्रोडक्ट्स को पाकिस्तान में सपोर्ट करते हैं, ठीक है, और जो है उसको बूस्ट करते हैं। इसलिए समझ आ गई, कॉलोनलिज्म जो है इसमें हम इकोनॉमिक या पॉलिटिकल लेवल पे हेल्प करते हैं दूसरी कंट्री की। नियो कॉलोनलिज्म जो है उसमें हम मल्टीनेशनल कंपनीज को टारगेट करते हैं, तो इनडायरेक्टली जो है वहां पे घुसा जाता है, ठीक है।
मैम इसके अंदर
तो ये है, ठीक है। कल्चरल पैटर्न, एक बच्ची ने पूछा, कल्चरल पैटर्न का मतलब ये है कि कुछ लोग जो पुराने एक सदियों से तरीके चल रहे होते हैं, उन्हीं तरीकों पे काम कर रहे होते हैं, ठीक है। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, गांव में लस्सी बनाने का तरीका है, मट्टी की कटोरी होती है, ऊपर बीटर होता है, बनाई जाती है, टेस्ट भी बड़ा जबरदस्त होता है, बट वही कॉमन है वहां पे, ठीक है। यहाँ पे सिटीज में देखा जाए तो मोस्टली मशीनरी आ गई है, ब्लेंडर आ गया है, तो वहां पे गांव के लोग या जो जो एक पैटर्न यूज हो रहा होता है, वो कहते हैं जी हमने इसी तरह करना है, तो वो अपनी स्टिक रहते हैं। मसाले बनाने वाले हैं तो कुछ लोग कहते हैं कूट कूट कर ही मसाले बनाना है, कूट कूट कर ही चटनी बनानी है, तो वो उनके एक स्टिक, एक चलते हुए पुराने पैटर्न्स चल रहे होते हैं, तो वो फिर उन पे स्टिक होते हैं। फिर उन्हें अगर चेंज, दादियां कर लो, दादियां हो गई, पर दादियां होगी, वो चेंज को रेजिस्ट करते हैं। तो जब चेंज को रेजिस्ट करते हैं तो फिर आपकी ग्लोबल वेल्थ और प्रोडक्टिविटी और ग्रोथ जो है उस पे इम्पैक्ट आता है। इज इट क्लियर? Okay, G, global theoretical perspective. What is global theoretical perspective? First one is functionalist perspective. In functionalist perspective, it is a macro analytical view that focuses on the way that all aspects of society are integral to the continued health and viability of the whole. A functionalist might focus on why we have global inequality and what social purposes it serves. This view might assert for example, that we have global inequality because some nations are better than other at adopting to new technologies and profiting from a globalized economy, and that when core nation companies locate in peripheral nations, they expand the local economy and benefit the workers. So what functionalist perspective says, they work on a macro analytical level. You can say in a simpler words that they are more positive. They are thinking that they are focusing that why there is a global inequality and what purposes they are serving, what we are getting because of global inequality. So what they are doing, that they think that if we are having the global inequality due to the reason that we are not adopting the technology, so it is better that we should adopt new technologies, and when they will be adopting new technologies, so they will be getting profit profit from the globalized economy, and they will be doing businesses outside their countries, their own countries, and they will expand their local economy and benefit the workers as well who are working into their companies. Like for example, if they will be benefiting or they will be doing businesses on a larger scale, so they will when their workers who are working in their companies, they should not be having the inequality, and they should not consider that these people are having some kind of problems, or due to that I should be taking benefit of that, or if this is a female, so I should be undervalued. So these things comes in a functionalist perspective. Functionalist says that we should not be looking into the a global inequality, that they focus at why there is the global inequality and what we are getting because of it. We are not getting something positive. So they are working that they say that this is the reason that few nations are high, because they are having advanced technologies and they are doing businesses with other countries, and they are getting more profit is because of that. After that, conflict theory comes. Conflict theory focuses on the creation and reproduction of inequality. A conflict theorist would likely address the systematic inequality created when core nation exploit the resources of peripheral nation. For example, कि जब one nation is exploiting the other nation, how that if for example how many US companies take advantage of overseas workers who lack the constitutional protection and guaranteed minimum wages that exist in the United States. Doing so allows them to maximize profit, but at what cost? So this means that if people are like, I've seen and I have noticed many people who have taken a degrees, like somebody is having an MBA degree in finance and someone is having MS degree in different subjects, or like they have studied the accounting or MBA HR, like they are having the good degrees, but when they are going to other countries, they need to extend their visa, or for that work visa they need to extend that, and for that purpose when they are not having the constitutional protection or their guarantee of stay, so they need to be stick to a jobs, or they need to work. So in other countries, those countries are taking advantages. They are not giving the equal opportunities to them. That if a person I know personally, the one individual who is MBA in Pakistan, they got the degree, and what he is doing in abroad, he is a waiter over there. So this is how conflict arises. That if other people are coming to your country, you should be giving the equal opportunities, that according to their own degrees or their resources. But people, different countries exploit the resources of the neighboring nation or the country from which individual are coming. So this is how conflict arises. After that, symbolic interaction comes. Symbolic interaction is a perspective in which we study day-to-day impact of global inequality. The meanings individuals attach to global stratification and the subjective nature of poverty. Someone applying this view to global inequality will probably focus on understanding the difference between what someone living in a core nation defines as poverty, and what someone living in a peripheral nation defines as a poverty as well. So what does this mean? This means the symbolic interaction says that global inequality is impacting to us, to our lives on the daily basis. Okay, day to day it is impacting, and the individuals are attaching their meanings, are attaching meaning to global stratification, the most important in which is poverty. Someone is applying that global inequality with focus on the difference between someone living in a core nation as defined as poverty. Like if someone individual is coming to you, so a few people are saying that if you are coming in a low, going in a low economic status country, so you will not be getting the most wages, or you will not be getting the more profit. But if you are going in the high income countries where entry is also a difficult thing, so if you are going into high income countries, you will be getting the more advantages or more profit, and you will be earning more. So, and this is how many people who are going in high income countries, they are getting more money and they are earning more money. But those who are going into the lower income countries, so they are not getting the more things. So here the symbolic interaction says that because in low income country already people are poor, poverty is common. So when the peripheral nation or the neighboring nation or the other nation from when people are coming to live there, so what they will be getting, because they are already poverty is common in low income countries. So someone are from the outside coming, and how they will be doing, so they will be also they become the part of poverty as well. So symbolic interaction says according to the nation that depends that if because you are going in a low income country which is attached to poverty, definitely you will be getting poverty in return as well. Okay, so global stratification theory comes, there are two theories come into it. One is modernization theory, a model of economic and social development that explains global inequality in terms of technology and cultural differences. Okay, for example, modernization theory says that there are two things. One is globally how inequality comes because of technology. Those countries who are modernizing and they are using the technologies at a larger scale, so on basis of those technologies they are having enough technology and they are having less cultural differences, they are they are going towards the more productivity, and they are going towards the getting the more profits. And the modernization theory is accordingly, this says that a model of economic and social development depends that the how inequality is working globally, and on the basis of technology, that if a technology is less, that country or that location people will be not much into modernization, and they will not be growing. And in cultural differences, if people are sticking to the old cultural patterns, so how they can grow. After that, dependency theory comes, a model of economic and social development that explains global inequality in terms of the historical exploitation of poor nations by rich ones. So social conflict theory I have discussed, that comes into the dependency theory, because why conflict is coming, that one that individuals who are dependent to you, they are coming to you, and you are getting benefit from that individual. So that is you, because you are using your conflicts in that, so that comes into the conflict theory. We have seen modernization and dependency theory. Modernization theory says that a model of economic and social development that explains the global inequality in terms of technology and cultural differences, because they say that this is structural and functionalism perspective, that in people are not going towards or to the development or growth because they are sticking on the previous background or typical methods of producing like products, and they are not using more technology. So according to modernization, that more global inequality is basically on basis of these two things, that there are technological drawbacks and cultural differences are there. Whereas in dependency theory, it according to it, a model of economic and social development that explains like global inequality in terms of the historical exploitation of poor nations by rich ones. So they says the dependency theory is, if country is poor and if someone is coming to them, or like they are getting exploitation by the historical people, or those nations who are rich, they are rich, and those who are poor, they are poor. So they are running by that according to an ancestral perspective, or they are dependent in a similar manner. Like for example, social conflict we have discussed in the conflict theory, that they are having the conflict that, for example, if somebody is going into the from poor country to a rich country, somebody is going, so they are having the dependency on the other country, that that country will pay us, we will work for them, but it is not if they are getting paid, so they are paying less or like that. So inequality is coming in that sense. For example, if somebody is going to US, from the lower economic countries, so they will not be paying them as much high. But if somebody is coming from high economic income countries to the lower income countries, so lower income country will try to pay them more because that individual belongs from US, or this type of stigmas or stereotypes you must have been seen in around you. Okay, after that we will be looking into modernization theory in a little detail. Okay, nations attain affluence by technology. Here they say that nations are getting affluence means wealth or money. Nations are getting money by technology. Definitely, when they are using their technology, on the basis of technology, they are producing a lot of products. And they are working on a larger scale, or they are producing things on the larger scales. When they are producing on larger scales, they are promoting their businesses in that manner. After that, cultures must encourage innovation. Obviously, if you will be sticked on a typical or cultural patterns which are running throughout your ancestors, or from your grandparents concepts, or like that, so if innovation is not coming, then there will be no success. So cultures should be innovative, and they must encourage innovation, change. They should be accepting towards the change. They should not resist change. Actually, most of the people resist change, and especially the old age people, they resist change. So they should not be resisting to that. They should come towards innovation, because if we will be working on our self growth, we will be definitely giving something beneficial to our society. After that, this is like beliefs high income countries. It is a belief that the high income countries, what they are doing, they are assisting in controlling population increase through birth control technology. Definitely, when high income countries know that where do they lie, and their resources are not as much that they should have a lot of individuals in their country, and so that's why they are using the control. They are controlling population by birth control, by taking birth control technology or pills or like that. And in US and UK, I have heard that what they are doing, they say that if you are having two children, so government will pays about their expenses or like that. So if children will be less, so definitely government will be taking care of them also, and you will be providing enough of your foods and resources to your children. But if a person belonging to a poor family, his income is only 20,000, for example, so but he is having 5 to 6 children, so how he can give quality food, quality education, and things to all of the kids? So this is the drawback. So high income countries are working on it. Then high income countries are working on increasing food production through green technology. Okay, so they are producing their food because they are producing their greenery over there, and they are using for that purpose, they are using technology. They are producing their foods on their land, like that. So their production is high because of their land is giving them, and they are using technology and machinery for them, because to take a broader perspective or a larger amount of products. After that, high income countries introduce industrialization and jobs. They are making more industries, they are creating more jobs, and they are expanding their businesses. When high income countries are towards growth, so definitely they are welcoming people, and they are giving job opportunities to the individuals. So that's why people from low income countries try to go to abroad and to work over there, because they think that yes, they are working on industrialization, they are making more and more companies, and they are having job opportunities, so people are going over there. After that, high income countries, what they do, they provide foreign aid. Why they are providing foreign aid? Because when they will provide foreign aid to other people or other countries, their relationships will be good with the other countries. So when their relationship will be good, what will they getting? They will be having good relationship. After that, they can do businesses with that country. They can import and export their own products into in other country, and when their products will be purchased by the other country, definitely profit will be getting in return. They will be getting profit. For example, we are having good relationships with China and Japan, so when their products are coming in Pakistan, we are taking the wow, it's from China, wow, it's from Japan. Yes, we are having friendly relations. So why? Because whenever we are in need, they help us. So they are having a strong relationship with us. Okay, so this is the important fact which high income countries do, and this is these things comes in modernization theory. Modernization theory says that this is important. If you want to grow, that you need to work on these things, and that's why high income countries are growing faster and they are having, like, they are moving towards the success. So there are two major factors. First one is innovation, and after second one is technology. Okay, after that, rostro stages of modernization. Rostro model, this is a model which is more, you can say, structural model of economic growth, particularly those methods or those concepts which were given previously. This is a little different from them, or it is not a backward, it is a latest model, and having a greater knowledge that how modernization can affect and how we can move towards the growth. Okay, so there are few enlisted discussing that rostro stages of modernization. The first one is traditional society. This stage is characterized by a subsistence agricultural based economy with intensive labor and low level of trading, and a population that does not have a scientific perspective on the world and technology. So Rostro says that traditional societies are those societies which are sticking towards the backward concepts or backward things, and they are not going towards the technology. They are not adopting the technology. When they are not adopting technology, they need intensive labor, a lot of labor to work over there, and the level of trading, definitely when they will not be using like machinery or technology, their products will be less. For example, if a person is having land in the village and he is producing tomatoes or some kind of vegetables or fruit, so if an individual is not having any kind of machinery, it will take a lot of time to work on it, to make it, and a lot of labor will be required, but his trading will be less and he will be getting less profit. But if in comparison to that individual, if there is another individual who's having a larger amount of like land and he is having technology, is using technology, so what he can do, he can produce a larger perspective, and he can do trade in that, and he can sell and to other cities and send other cities, because he knows that I am having a larger getting product, or I am making product on a larger scale, so I can do business on a larger scale. So for example, I have discussed last time in the class that there is a person who owns savers. So I've seen a video that he is using technology, a lot of technology in his own restaurants, and he's having underground proper system in which he's having machinery for salads, or he is having machinery for rice boiling and everything. He's having technology, so he needs less labors over there, but he is producing a lot of like product, like his rice are on a larger scale. So you cannot hear one day that the rice are finished, or it's less in quantity it is made. So this is not the case. Why? Because they are producing that on a larger scale. So traditional society needs to be changed. After that, preconditions to take off. Here a society begins to develop manufacturing and a more national or international, or as opposed to regional outlook. So preconditions to take off is that individual needs, or society needs to develop manufacturing things, that they need to make something products. Either they can make furniture, they can make like clothing, they can work, they can make jewelry boxes, any kind of thing they can do that. And after that they can do business at national and international levels. So taking off can be the major aspect also to earn money and to get into the modernization. After that takeoff, Rostro described this stage as a shorter period of intensive growth. He says that the intensive growth matters, and its shorter stage is the to take off, in which industrialization begins to occur and workers and institutions become concentrated around a new industry. Like for example, if somebody is making another industry, or like to expand his business, so what will happen? So people will, workers or people will be concentrating on the new industry around where they need to work, or they will be getting hired paid. So people take off from one area or one industry, definitely. So that also the that's also a major impact, important factor. After that, the drive to maturity comes. This stage takes place over a long period of time. As standards of living rise, use of technology increases, and the national economy growth and diversifies. He says a drive to maturity. When we are resisting change, we are not going into accepting the change, what we will be doing. We will be lacking back behind, or we will not be getting success, or we will not be improving our lifestyles, and we will be sticking on our typical methods, and we will stay back, you can say. So maturity is that you should welcome the change, and you should increase your living standards, you should increase use the technology, and technology use should be increased, because definitely when technology use will be increased, life will become easier, and in return they will produce a lot of products. Then national economy will definitely grow in this way, that when they will be starting trading between the nations and international countries. After that age of high mass consumption, at time of writing, Rostow believed that Western countries, most notably the United States, occupied this last developed stage. Here, a country's economy flourished in a capitalist system characterized by mass production and consumerism. So here, Rostow says that how countries flourishing when country will be doing businesses on a larger scale with other countries, and when country will be into the making more industries, or making more products, or making giving a lot of jobs to individuals, and they will be having more mass production. So these factors will depend, and that because of these things, a country can flourish when it will be developing a lot of, or making a lot of industries, organizations, or companies, and for increasing the products or mass production for your country, and in return you are giving jobs to your country individuals as well, for the people who are coming from other countries as well. So in this way countries flourish. Okay, after that, the rich of no role of rich nations. We have already touched a little bit in modernization, that how rich nations, what they are doing. First one is they are controlling their population, because they know that if population will be so much high, so how they will be providing enough resources to every individual. After that, increasing food production. They are exporting high technology farming methods. They are referred to as the green revolution, like they are making food in their own land. They are trying to make the food in their own land by using the technologies, and they are increasing their farming methods, that if they will be needing to buy from the other country, they will be charged more, and they will definitely not getting as much profit if they will be making that thing into their own country. After that, introducing industrial technology. So what they are doing, they are introducing industrial technologies. High income countries are there introducing machineries, technologies which can improve productivity. Industrialization shifts the labor force from farming to skill industrial and service job. Exactly, when industrialization will be there, technology will be there, so people are moving from farming to jobs, and they are working accordingly, according to their skill, the skill in which they have learned, they have getting the degree, so they are going to get the similar jobs. After that, providing foreign aid helps to raise agricultural productivity. In foreign aid, they need if they are giving the foreign aid, so it helps to raise their own agricultural productivity. They will produce, and they will exchange their products as well. Then financial and technological assistance to build power plants and factories. Definitely, when in time of need, if some country is giving aid to other countries, so they will be expecting that when they will be needing, so country will give return back, or a country will definitely support or assist them whenever they will be needing. Okay, after that, dependency theory, we have discussed that in colonial process helped enrich some and impoverish others, and economic positions are linked. Poor nations are not simply lagging behind rich nations on the path to progress. Exploitation is acceptable economics. Yes, they are saying that poor nation is, it is not like they are lacking behind rich nations. They are working towards the progress. They are slow and steady wins the race, we can say. So they are working on it. They are trying, but here exploitation is coming, that this, if this is a poor country, so how they can produce a good products, or this and these kind of conflicts, you can say. So dependency theory involves three major facts: narrow export economies, their export level is less, they are having lack of industrial capacity, there are less industries having in their countries. Then foreign debit, poor nations owe rich over 3 trillion. Okay, so means is they are having foreign debit, they cannot help other people or like that, because their own population is as much high, that how they will be focusing on their own country, own people, they are dying and they are in need, how they can help to other countries. Okay, after that, we have discussed the global poverty. And these we have discussed three things: colonialism, in which the some nature nations enrich themselves through political and economic control of other nations. Whereas in neo-colonialism, we have discussed the new form of global power, in which they are helping individuals, or they are making relationships indirectly, okay, by contacting their multinational corporations or companies. What is multinational corporations? A large business that operates in many countries. So, for example, a business of Pepsi, you can say, and a business of, you can say, brands, they are working in different countries. So, this is the case like this. Okay, so poverty, theoretical justifications why there is so much poverty is in throughout the world globally. First one is, you can say, this is a short summary of our lecture: technological lag, we are lacking behind in technology; high birth rates, traditional oriented, they are resisting towards the change; and distribute wealth poorly, because wealth is poorly distributed among the individual. If a person is rich and he is having enough money, so he can afford 5 cars even. But if a person is not rich, he cannot even having one car, he cannot afford. So this is the distribution of wealth is poorly operated. And operation of women oppressed generations. For example, if women are working, they are not equally benefiting, or they are not equally paying or getting paid. After that, result of colonialism is that if an individual is working, please switch off your mic. This is the last slide. Okay, then after that, the colonialism, if people are helping individuals, or making relationships, or giving foreign aid at time of their need, so they will be expecting in return as well. So types of global slavery. Global slavery, what does this mean? First one is chattel slavery. One person owns another. Okay, when somebody is owning another person, we call it chattel slavery. About 20 million people fit this category. Buying and selling of slaves takes place in Asia, Middle East, and Africa. After that, child slavery, definitely desperately poor families send their children to the rich families to earn and to make money. So this is very much common. Then debt bondage, employer pays worker wages not enough to cover foods and housing. Debt bondage, as if somebody is working into your organization 18 hours a day, but organization is not paying that individual as much to he can fulfill his food basic necessities, food or housing as well. So that comes in debt bondage. Then servile forms of marriage, families marry of women against their will, ending up as a slave. Prostitutes by patriarchy, like servile form of marriages. Then when people, women do not want to marry, but they are getting married at a younger age or a very small age, or against their will, they are marrying to old age people or like that. So what they will be doing, they will be having no self respect, they will be having no willpower, they cannot do anything by their own choice. So they will be ending up as slaves, or they will commit suicides, they will do anything wrong like that. Then human trafficking, forced or enslaved labor by organized crime, second only to gun and drug trafficking globally. For example, if somebody is doing a drugs business, so what they will be doing, they will be taking people forcefully from the other countries. And terrorists, what they do, they kidnap people, and they are doing these kind of things forcefully. Then few beggars you can see, they are common in Pakistan and in low income countries as well, that people kidnap the smaller children and young age kids. And what they do, they are kidnapping, then after that they are cutting their hands or doing rubbish things to those kids, and they send them to beg. So these are human trafficking, that in which they are doing things, or by power, or forceful, and they are having the organized crime. Okay, this was all about today. We have discussed the global theoretical perspective, and after that we have discussed global stratification theory, in which modernization theory and dependency theory. And in modernization we have discussed in detail. After that we have discussed Rostro stages of modernization, how he says that modernization occurs, then role of rich nations, then dependency theory, global poverty, and what are the poverty theoretical justifications, why there is so much poverty. So this, you can say, this is a summary of our whole lecture. Then types of global slavery, how globally slavery concept is common, in which we have seen the chattel slavery, child slavery, debt bondage, servile forms of marriage, and human trafficking. Okay, hope this is all clear. This is all about today. So is there any question? Globally